I am so excited to start doing these supplementals. Laura expected me to say more.
Don't look at me like that. No, absolutely. These supplementals are going to be so much fun to do because there's so much information in these books that are just, it's too much to put into one episode talking about 7 chapters, and then there's all of this extra stuff, like specific mechs or how far they go or the power of a weapon.
Well, and the thing is, talking about the mechs, I also, I look at mechs and you're like, oh yeah, that's a heavy. When we were recording last, I'm like, yeah, my crap, that's a heavy, right? You're like, yeah, it's a heavy. I'm like, oh, okay, because I didn't know that, right? So it's helping give me a stronger basis for the game. Like I said, these boys are really going to regret getting us to read these books because I'm going to come in and be like, yo, did you know?
Next season it's gonna be highly entertaining because, not only are we going to... Well, I think we're gonna show up with superior dice.
Yeah, better dice, better tactics.
But we're gonna have the knowledge and the know-how. We can talk the talk, walk the walk.
No, just walk the walk. I don't even do that very well, so apparently I drown when I'm trying to walk.
No, that was a jump, not a walk.
Oh, true. But still, I have a hard time staying upright, so...
So does your husband. He can fall down with 4 legs.
Yeah, but so can my dog.
Your dog isn't an 80-ton metal machine.
Yeah, he'd be scary. So, this being our first supplemental for the Battle Babes, I think we're going to start talking about mechs, because I know for me, I didn't really understand that. Specific tonnage or for different, I knew that there were different weight classes, but what that meant for this weight class or what the armor would look like. And then also talking about comparison, because talking about the mechs to people, it's kind of hard to be able to explain them.
Yeah, you can talk about a wasp and you get a mental picture of...
I get a mental picture of something that flies.
Oh, yeah. Well, they do have jump jets, so they can fly.
No, they can't fly. They can jump.
They can jump. They can fall gracefully.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you're a wasp or a Goliath, I mean, you're in your head, you know that the wasp is small compared to the Goliath. But you don't know what the ratio for the tonnage of the mech versus the amount of armor it's carrying versus the weapons it can have.
Well, or how tall it is, right? Because we were talking about that, and the fact that all of the little figurines that we use for the tabletop game are all roughly the same height, right? You can't look at this one and be like, oh yeah, that's definitely a light, or that's definitely an assault. They don't really show the difference because the mechs in the 4 main categories range anywhere from 8 to 16 meters in the actual, if they were real, out in the real world kind of thing, right? And so I'm like, well, the most you might have difference on those mechs is maybe a centimeter, maybe a couple. I don't know, but even that's not right. They don't have one that's literally the double the size of the other ones.
Right. Yeah, you stand them side by side and you're looking at half a centimeter height difference between the smallest and the largest, where in reality, if they were reality, there'd be 10-meter difference between some of them.
Yeah, there totally can be. And so starting with that, I think is really important. And being able to say, okay, talking to a friend or a family member, and we're talking about these books, and they're like, well, what... You're talking about this Peahawk, the Phoenix Hawk, or you're talking about a Marauder, an Awesome. Well, how do they compare? Or like you said, the Wasps, which are 2 of the main mechs in the Carlisle Commandos Lance, which is from this first series of books that we're reading, right?
Yeah.
And so being able to say, okay, well, this is kind of this is the category it fits in, and this is what we would say it kind of fits in comparatively, because when I was trying to explain this to my mom, because she was asking me how much I like the books, which of course I'm never going to actually acknowledge this directly to my husband's face.
Yes, don't tell Lee.
I'm really enjoying it, and so I'm trying to explain it to her, and I'm like, okay, how do you explain this? And I'm like, okay, well, look at vehicles. right? Because we have such a wide range in sizes for vehicles. And so we picked different groups or different types of vehicles that would fit into each of these 4 categories to help us understand comparatively what it is.
For us, the light mechs are, your compact or your hatchback cars, and your mediums can be your mid-sized sedans, and all the way up to your heavies, which can, you think about your semi-trucks or your pure later box trucks for deliveries and whatnot. Like, visually on the road, that Ford F-350 is a whole lot bigger than that little Honda Civic, so...
Well, yeah, and so being able to compare them and say, okay, yeah, like you're thinking this Wasp, we'll think a compact car. And so we wanted to make sure there were also some real life comparisons as well, which we will expand on more when we talk about them. But I'm really looking forward to continuing doing this one as our first one, and then continuing with some of these other supplementals to help ourselves and the listeners who are new to the system, new to Battletech, to understand this stuff, especially if they don't have other comparison.
Well, if they don't have spouses or friends that are in for it, they don't have, somebody whispering in their ear going, oh yeah, that's, this mech is this big. It's like, well, and some people have issues with visualizing, okay, you can say something is, 3 meters high. It's like, well, how big is 3 meters?
Yeah.
Right? It's like, it's half a filing cabinet. Okay, well, that's a real life reference that you can, how tall...
Half a filing cabinet is 3 meters?
Well, again...
This is like a meter tall.
No.
It is not 3 meters, maybe 3 feet.
Oh. But you know what I'm getting at. You have something that is real life in front of your face. It's as big as a skyscraper. Or people say it's as long as a football field. Okay, Americans know American football
North
fields
American football and soccer fields. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at least it's a real life visual that most people have seen at least once in their lifetime, if not more, if you're a fan. How big they are, just a rough comparison. Whether you know that the football field is X amount of feet or meters long, doesn't matter. You have that visual length.
Exactly. So I'm looking forward to delving into this, and let's get going.
So, mech categories, we have light, medium, heavy, and assault. We're going to focus on the height, weight, the amount of armor per tonnage of the mechs, and different examples. And then we've got real life comparisons.
Yeah, so it's talking about each of these. Like, these are not the only categories of Battlemechs, which I have learned. I did not exactly know this before. So these being the 4 main categories that we see in the Battletech novels and across the universe. There are the ultralights and the super heavy, but they're not really seen in the universe. They talk about them, I guess, and they give some details, but you don't actually see them in play.
No.
So these are the 4 that we are going to talk about: the light, medium, heavy, and assault. And we're going to work through each of those subcategories and talk about them, because it's really helped me understand the difference in the mech.
Yeah. So we'll start off with the 4 categories of mechs with height. So the light mechs are 8 to 9 meters tall, and the mediums are 11 to 12 meters. The heavies are 14 to 15 meters tall, and assaults are 15 to 16.
And it's not just their height that's important, right? Because as you look at them, the heavy and the assault both have mechs that are 15 meters, but it's all the other aspects that make the difference between it being a heavy or an assault.
Right. Like, weight is a huge factor, because the lights the lightest light mech is 20 tons, and the largest one is up to 35 tons. But when you're looking at the mediums, then they're a little bit obviously bigger, 40 to 55 tons. And the heavies are 60 to 75, and your assaults are 80 to 100 tons. Like, that's a massive difference from your light to your assault.
Right. I was just saying, like, the height, 15 meters, you have a heavy that's 15 meters and assault that's 15 meters. But let's say that one heavy, and I don't know if there's actually a mech out there that does have these specifications, but let's say there's a 15 meter heavy that's 60 tons, comes up against a 15 meter assault that's anywhere between 80 to 100 tons, that's going to make a big difference, or it could on the battlefield.
Absolutely, it could. Well, and it also comes down to the armor, which we've looked it up and figured out that the armor is the weight divided by 10 and then doubled.
Right. So looking at the max, and that's their max armor, because depending what types of ammo or what types of weapons and abilities that those mechs have, their armor could be affected. So say they had jump jets in there, they might have to have less armor to be able to have those jump jets, because they can't be over a certain amount of tonnage, because if they are, then it's not going to work, right? Your mechanisms and your machines are only going to be able to support a certain amount of weight. It's like trying to pull a trailer, let's say, trying to pull like a fifth wheel with a tiny little cab, like a tiny little cab truck. You're not going to be able to, right? But yeah, pull it with a Dodge 3500 or an F350, well, you're not going to have a problem.
No. So the armor's for the lights, like Heather was saying, it's the maximum armor. So a 20-ton light mech will have 4 to 7 tons of armor?
No. So
I'm like,
the max armor, 4 ton, so max armor, looking at the lights, the max armor for a 20-ton mech is 4 tons of armor, right? So it's a 20-ton mech divided by 10, so that's 2 times 2 is 4, right? And then 35 tons, so a 35-ton mech, which is the largest light mech, is max armor of 7 tons, because 35 divided by 10 is 3.5 times 2 is 7 tons. So 4 to 7 tons, depending on what they have in them. It's not minimal. Like 4 tons on a 20-ton mech is 1/5. That's not horrible. It could be worse, but it's still nothing compared to like a 100-ton mech and what they're gonna have for armor.
Yeah, and going up the size, a medium, so an 40-ton medium will have 8 tons of armor, whereas a 55-ton mech will have 11 tons of armor.
Right, and then moving up to the heavy, we have a 60-ton mech would have 12 tons of armor max, and a 75-ton mech would have 15 tons max armor.
Yeah, and the assault 80 tons will have 16 tons of armor. Like, that's pretty substantial.
Especially if you look at a mech with 4 tons.
Yeah, you wouldn't want to have the 4 tons of armor coming up against, well, your 100-ton assault will have 20 tons of armor. That's 5 times the amount of your lightest light.
Right, and trying to think about what a ton is, okay? So I'm not very good at the actual visualization. I'm like, what's a ton? I have no idea. We say my little dash hound here, my sweet little angel, is our 10-ton dog, because you can't move her when she sleeps. She's so limp, but I know for a fact she's not a ton. So figuring out what a ton is, we looked it up, and an average full-grown North American buffalo is approximately a ton. So thinking a mech, so a light, 20 tons, so 20 North American buffalo. That's coming running at you. As a human, I'm not standing there. Nope, not at all. Maybe if I'm another herd of 20 buffaloes, I might. But then again, looking at, even in the book, right, they're talking about these wasps coming around in the book comparatively to something like an awesome. They're not that scary, but running down a road or coming down a road 20 tons, think 20 freaking North American buffalo coming running at you. No, thank you.
Nope, I'm gonna go hide.
Yeah, right? But then also looking at the assault. So the heaviest assault is 100 tons. 100 North American buffalo. I don't even think I've ever seen 100 North American buffalo in one spot.
Nope.
And think about how heavy those suckers are.
And like as a human, like honestly, that's unfathomable for me. I cannot picture 100 buffalo. I mean, I have a hard enough time looking at 100 cows and going, that's 100? Like a herd of cows.
Yes.
But, and then in the book, like as a pilot in a wasp, it's like, okay, I'm surrounded by 4 tons of armor. I'm good to go. And then you see this, you know, an assault that has 20 tons of armor coming around the corner. I'm still gonna go, oh, hell no.
You're booking it, hey?
And me and my little armor, we're gone. No way.
Well, and it's looking at the mechs, it's just really cool to actually break this down, because I was thinking, okay, going into League next year, or even now that someone might have convinced me to join the MRC, which if you're interested in learning about the MRC, I know the guys did a podcast on that not too long ago. They talked about the MRC. But anyways, playing against you're bringing a specific mech. I know, okay, I can figure out it's a heavy, and it's the max armor it could have is this. Knowing that so say I know it's a 75 ton mech. The max armor can have is 15 tons. Well, that can help me figure out which mech I'm going to send at your mech, or which mechs I need to focus on out of your mechs, by having this basis of it. Like this might be a little bit more information than people who are just reading the books or following along in the books with us. But the thing is, it's kind of like playing, doing like D&D, playing D&D or something, right? If you had no background from Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, anything like that, any magic book, and you're coming into this role-playing game, you're going to be thrown for a loop. But having this background knowledge and then putting it into the books, being like, okay, yeah, like I knew a marauder was massive. It's the marauder, that's the big one in the book, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so like I know a marauder is massive. I had a marauder this year, and it was one of my favorite mechs. Like I loved that mech, but it didn't really stick out to me what it was or how big and massive and destructive this sucker is until I got into the book, and I'm putting in my knowledge of what's made in this mech. I'm like, oh wow, yeah, he just swung his arm and destroyed a building. Okay, right, that's
wrecking ball.
Yeah. Yeah. Came in like a wrecking ball.
But absolutely, like, we play the tabletop. We have the minis. You know, my salamander was my favorite mech. It's 80 tons. But until you start reading and having them in, air quotes, real life situations, when you're reading these, you know, fights, battles, you don't really understand the scope of the power and the size of the mechs themselves.
When I talk to people about mechs and they're like, well, what are they? Like, how would you, trying to describe them, I think Avatar, right? Or tonight when we were sitting at the table, I was like, oh, in the Matrix, they have a mech. Right?
Yeah.
So it is, and the boys hate when we say it. We say robots because that's something that people can kind of wrap their heads around, but it's not really a robot. Right? Robots are not, they don't have someone in them.
No, they're unmanned and they're remote control from somewhere safe distance.
Or, like you were showing me that video, they are run by a program, right? There's not actually someone in it.
Yeah, no. Where these mechs are vehicles. They have a pilot. They are being run from an internal human sitting in the cockpit in as much danger from the incoming fire.
Well, yeah, and looking at when I think Avatar, I'm like, okay, these things in Avatar are nothing compared to what the size of the mechs are. Even the lightest mech, the smallest mech in the 4 categories. But it does give you an idea, like depending whatever their programs are, like the having to move their arm. The mech pilots actually have to do something to make it do it, right? It's not just automatically going to happen. And so it's kind of a good reference in being able to say, okay, yeah, this is what it is. Like, that most people have seen Avatar, right? The Matrix, like, I can tell you, Lee was absolutely shocked when I said I'd never seen the Matrix. But I do that all the time. He'd be like, oh, have you seen this movie? What?
Yeah, a reference goes right okay.
It's a good thing I don't have to have scripts that Brett writes, because I wouldn't get most of the jokes.
Lee doesn't get half the jokes.
Ooh,
but no, it's a lot easier when you talk to somebody if you can give them a real life comparison. Like we were talking about vehicles. So the mechs compared to vehicles that we drive. Like light mechs, we've decided to compare to compact cars.
And an example, or a couple of examples of compact cars. So like they're the small little family cars, right? They might have 4 doors, but normally they don't. It's something like a Honda Civic, a Mazda 3, a Toyota Corolla, right? So they're the nice little family cars that you're not trying to carry all the wagons and stuff in it, but you can get enough stuff in there to survive. Right?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
And then we look at our mediums, and we were saying that mediums are like a standard sedan. Not a massive oversized sedan, but definitely bigger than a little compact.
Yeah, like my car, Volkswagen Jetta, easy sedan, like Ford Escort.
Yeah, Volkswagen Jetta, which is your hatchback.
It's not a hatchback.
Jettas are hatchbacks.
My Jetta's a 4-door sedan.
Oh, I didn't realize you had a Jetta. I was thinking you were talking about hatchbacks, and I was like, yeah. Jettas. Lots of Volkswagen Jettas are hatchbacks, but anyways.
No, the Volkswagen Golf would be the hatchback.
Okay, but you can say a Focus. You can get a Focus that's a sedan or a Focus that's a hatchback, and they're still Focuses.
I've seen a Focus hatchback, but I get the same look probably that I gave you when I tell people that I drove a Ford Mustang hatchback.
Brown
Ford Mustang hatchback in grade 12.
Yeah, yeah. I still can't wrap my mind around a brown Mustang and it being a hatchback. But we're going to leave that where that is because I have way too many comments to make on that, and they are not exactly appropriate for natural, well, not even for regular consumption and public public displays of...
Insert picture here.
Yeah, insert picture here. Yeah, pretty much. But then we're looking at our heavies, and this is where we really do make a jump because of the lights and the medium. Yeah, they're not comparable in weight and size, but they are kind of comparable in overall. Like I look at they would be more of the cars, right? The lights and the mediums. But getting up to the heavies and the salts is where we're getting into the haulers, where we're getting into the vehicles that actually have the power.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Because the heavies we looked at are like your 1/4 to 1/2 ton trucks. So your F-150s, 250s, or your Ram 1500s, 3500s, like the large, your haulers, like you said, your 5th wheel pullers.
Yeah, the one working out on the farm, you got to pick up hay bales, you got to toss hay bales, right? Those are those trucks.
Yeah.
But then we're looking at the assaults. Now, these suckers, I would never want to come up against one of these in the road. I would never want to come up against one of these in the battlefield. Looking at a vehicle, a Hummer, right? Like we're looking...
I don't know, when I picture a Hummer, I also think of like a bodybuilder. Like that big, broad shoulder, walk, you gotta turn sideways to fit through a door. It's kind of like the Mercedes G-Wagon is similar to a Hummer. Similar size, similar boxy, bulky feel.
Yeah, like I don't have a reference for that vehicle, but like when I think of a Hummer or I think of an assault, I think of this thing that so take 100 ton assault, right? You're not taking 1 or 2 little wasps or a wasp, a stinger, and even a Phoenix Hawk, which is a medium, and throwing them at an assault. Because if you are not going to come out nice. It's kind of like throwing even 2 compact cars at a Hummer. Those compact cars aren't coming out. At least not looking like cars.
No, they're not coming out in one piece.
Right? So that's like looking at them, and that's how I explained it to my mom. Because I was like, well, how do I tell her anything? Because she doesn't know. She sees our figurines in the basement, but she doesn't really understand any of it. So I was like, yeah, this kind of would make sense to be able to say, hey, they go up in sizes and strength and ability. And
yeah. Well, and we were talking about the height. A light, 8 to 9 meters tall. Well, what is 8 to 9 meters tall? Or if you want to lay it down on its side, what is 8 to 9 meters in length?
Well, we started out real nice and calm and real life situations like an orca, right? Think an orca. The whale that people are going to shoot me, Niagara Falls or SeaWorld, right? An orca. 8 to 9 meters. That's significant, right? But it's not like scary. Like it's scary, but it's not like, I mean, it's not coming up against something that's 16 meters, right? It's 8 to 9 meters. So we went with the highest size when we're doing these comparisons, just because it's like, well.
I mean, you get smaller sized orcas or the smaller sized lights, 8 meters long.
Yeah.
Where 9 meters long, it's like adult orcas.
The daddy orca.
Yeah. Or, I mean, mediums, 11 to 12 meters. So what's 12 meters in length? Well, a whale shark.
Definitely bigger than an orca.
Definitely bigger than an orca.
But not as big as a humpback whale, right?
Right.
So, and I'm not saying one of these mechs or these mech sizes, we have a humpback whale in there, but like a whale shark, they're big.
Intimidating, yeah, they're big.
Yeah, like I don't want to come up against one of those when I'm scuba diving.
Nope.
But it's significant.
Yeah.
And then our heavy, which we were saying is our quarter to our half-ton trucks, literally the measurement. So the tallest heavy is 15 meters. That is a semi-truck. From tail to hitch, right?
Yeah, the semi-trailer, you stand it on end, and that's how tall a 15-meter heavy mech is.
Which is significant. I'm really like, even when you stand or you drive by a semi, I'm like, that thing's big.
Mm-hmm.
Could you imagine that sucker coming running at you and you know that it can shoot?
Nope. Nope. And your assault, like 15, 16 meters tall, like telephone poles, man. That's...
Well, not just
like,
one.
Not just one. Like, you got 1.5 telephone poles tall.
Like, that's significant. Just even looking out at a telephone pole out front, I was looking at it the other day. I was like, that's really big. But it's even taller than that. Like, you could not even crane your neck to be able to look up at the top of that sucker.
No. You think about these pilots, which typically, from what we've been reading, the cockpits for these mechs are in the head. So these humans are having to be lifted up, assault mechs. They're having to be lifted up 15 meters in the air to get into these vehicles to pilot.
Well, I was thinking the mech bays. So, yeah, I think, okay, so these mech bays, reading the book, I was like, oh yeah, it really made me think of like an airplane hangar, right? It's wide, like airplane hangars are wide. They're tall, but they're not too tall. Like to get into the mech bay, to get into these suckers, right? You're not climbing up a ladder.
No,
to get up there.
No, I'm picturing the scaffolding and elevators like astronauts getting into the space shuttles.
Like NASA, right?
Yeah.
Like you see in all the movies and even the actual launches and stuff, they have to go up the elevators. Right? They have to go up there, listen to elevator music. And I'm like, man, that's tall.
That's tall. And then we had some fun.
Oh, we did. And we started with, so when we were looking up, I think it was actually the medium. So we were looking up something that's 12 meters. And one of the suggestions of something that's 12 meters tall was a certain number of Danny DeVitos.
So we decided we were going to look up each mech category in comparison to Danny DeVito.
And
then we came across and we thought, well, we're both Game of Thrones fans. So why not take a look and see how many Peter Dinklages it takes?
Sorry.
How many of him standing on his shoulder each of these mechs are.
Yes. So before we go too far with DeVito and Dinklage, we have to identify how tall they are.
Right. So we looked it up. Danny DeVito is 1.5 meters tall.
And Peter Dinklage is 1.3 meters tall. And I was actually thinking afterwards, we could have also done the guy who plays Willow.
Oh, Warwick Davis.
And he's also, we could have totally done Warwick. Yeah. Because we both love Harry Potter.
Yeah.
And I'm a huge, like one of my favorite movies is Willow. But anyways, we have Danny DeVito and Peter Dinklage. And it is talking about the measurement. It's however many Peter Dinklages is what we're saying. Yes. We're not saying Peter's Dinklage. We are saying Peter dinklages. So,
yes,
to preempt that, because it can sound quite intriguing. So let's start with our light.
Our light mechs, 9 meters tall. Well, we figure we did the math. That's 6 Danny DeVitos tall, or 6.7 Peter Dinklages tall.
Dinklages. Anyways, like I like Danny DeVito, 6 of them standing, like not even on his shoulders, like on their heads. But like having them stand on their heads, and so yeah.
Except now you say stand on their heads, and I'm picturing both Danny DeVito and Peter Dinklage, literally dressed as clowns, standing on their hands with their feet in the air.
Oh, yeah, no, that would take too much work. But anyways, so then we're looking at our mediums. So that's those ones that are 11 to 12 meters. The sedan, so bigger than the compact car, size of a whale shark. Danny DeVito, there would be 8 of him to get as tall as the 12 meters, or 8.9
Peter Dinklages
standing on top of each other. And just, man, I really want to see that in real life. And I don't just mean a picture. Like, I want to see 8.9 Peter Dinklages standing on top of each other.
Well, here's hoping cloning ability comes fast.
Fast.
Yeah.
They should freeze him.
Oh.
Forever young, like that movie. Yeah.
Freeze-dried Peter Dinklages.
Oh my god. Oh shit, we really need to record these when you're here on a Friday or Saturday night.
Yeah.
Because they're so much better. Not that this isn't funny, but anyways.
So our heavy mech, 14 to 15 meters tall. So we have 10 Danny DeVitos, or 11.1 Peter Dinklage.
I was trying to hold that in, but I couldn't. Anyways, assault. So, these big suckers, again, think 100 tons, 16 meters tall, a Hummer, 1.5 telephone poles. And we're going to compare them to Danny DeVito and Peter Dinklage. Oh, gee. Okay, so that's 10.7 Danny DeVitos, or 11.85 Peter Dinklage.
Need the 5 in there.
Yes, we do. I guess we could round it up to 11.9.
Yeah.
But it's funnier being 11.85.
11.85 Peter Dinklages.
Peter Dinklages, man. So, it's the size ranges of these machines is so massive. But their abilities, right? Talking about the armor. Having 4 tons of armor, max armor, right? Compared to something that has 20 pounds, compared to something that has 20 tons of max armor is scary. But it doesn't just come down to that. It comes down to their weapons as well.
Yeah.
Right? Because we were talking about it in the game, just like any machine, right? You're driving your car, your system starts to overheat because your cooling system's not working properly. Your machine's getting hot. Your machine, like, you're gonna stop driving. Like, it'll shut down your car.
Yeah, absolutely it will.
And in these machines, like, if anybody has ever fired a gun or watched a movie where they talk about these bullets coming out and they're red hot, and you have to think the guns are hot too. And a lot of their weapons are energy weapons.
Yeah, and they're not handheld. Like,
well, they are handheld by the mechs, but not the humans.
No, but even the mech, no, some of them are shoulder mounted.
True.
So they're physically on the body of these mechs. So,
oh, I see what you're saying, yeah.
So these energy weapons, and some of them are actually built into the torso themselves. So you think somebody as an example, somebody walking around inside a mascot suit at, say, a football or a baseball game. They're actually wearing a secondary suit underneath it that's ice packs or water cooling.
Or they have fans in them, right? Like,
right. So these mechs have to have a way of cooling all this external heat that from these weapons firing, or even just moving. Like, right? Jump jets are going to generate heat in the legs. So
well, it's a machine.
You have to make sure that you keep it cool, or you're going to have, your systems will dry up and your mechanisms are all going to seize, and suddenly you can't walk.
Well, yeah, like thinking about machines, and if you let those parts get too hot, you're not going to be able to, it's not going to work, right? So looking at these different mechs, we have these mechs, a mech that has 4 tons of armor, that's 20 tons, and a 100-ton mech that has 20 tons of armor. To be able to cool the system, or to be able to run the system, you're going to have something to cool, like we were just saying. But you can't just stick an AC unit on these things and expect them to be able to carry the extra weight.
No, you got to sacrifice some of the tonnage from the armor to substitute these cooling systems. And like, I know it's I'm trying to think of a real life comparison. And I don't know if I can. Or yes, I can. So you got your sedans that have your, full roof sunroof. So it's glass all the way from front to back. Well, but it doesn't open. So in order to cool down your car, you sacrifice some of the glass to give it a sliding sunroof. So these, you take off 10 tons of armor from this, your 100-ton mech with 20 tons of armor, now suddenly only has 10 tons of armor, but it has a cooling system.
Right. And so we have to look at all of those little things. And so you can have 2 100-ton mechs coming at each other on the field. You have these mechs, 2 100-ton mechs. They're going to be coming at each other with different systems in them. And their armor is going to be affected. So say I decide, talking about heat, I need to keep my mech cool because I have all energy weapons and they create a ton of heat. So I'm going to take 6 tons of my armor. Again, I don't know if these are real calculations. Please do not quote me on this. But so they decide to take 6 tons of their armor off so they can put in these 6 tons of cooling systems, right?
Yeah.
Well, you're coming on with a mech that's also 100 tons, or the other one's coming on, right? And they're like, okay, well, I don't have a lot of heat creating weapons, because just like a car, they come with the standard things, like the standard cooling systems, and then when you start making adjustments is when you have to start adding other things, right?
Right.
So he's going to be like, okay, well, the type of technology, the type of weapons I have, or my country, my planet, my whatever has, they don't create a lot of heat. So I'm not going to take off, I'm only going to add 2 extra. I'm going to take 2 extra tons of heat sinks, which are what these cooling systems are called, are heat sinks. I'm going to take 2 tons and add 2 tons of heat sinks. So I'm down to 18 heat sinks, and the other one's down to 14 heat sinks, 16 heat sinks. That could easily make a difference.
Absolutely. Because with that extra 2 tons between the two, could also mean it's got an extra weapon.
Right.
So, you're looking at 2 weapons versus 3. Well, now you've got an extra third amount of damage that you're taking.
Yeah. Because
you've decided to keep a cooler mech than the other guy.
Right. And so it's kind of cool that way. Now, I don't know like all the different varieties of Marauders and Peahawks and all of these. But just being able to be aware that you could be reading about a Marauder, say like the Marauder we're reading in this book, whatever they're describing, it's going to be similar as a Marauder in another book, but it's not guaranteed to have the same types of weapons or the exact same amount of armor and stuff, because people change it as it goes through battle. So maybe it loses a weapon and they have to put something else in, or they were able to buy an extra special kind of technology, right? And so it's kind of cool that way to know that information, but it's knowing that there's also these variants, just like a Focus, right? Like look at a Focus or an F-150 or any kind of vehicle, as the time goes on or whatever, they change, and there's the, like the Mazda 1, Mazda 2, right, 3, right? You can tell that there's the difference.
Well, yeah, and as you go with the vehicles, as you get newer vehicles, now we're getting electrics or hybrids. Whereas 20 years ago, 30 years ago, we didn't have hybrid vehicle. You had gas powered and you had diesel power.
Yeah.
But now we're on like 3rd or 4th generation of certain vehicles. Like even pickup trucks are hybrids now.
Yeah.
Like electric assist, which is just, so as the years go on, there's different mechs as well. More more power efficient, more energy, heat efficient, energy efficient. Technology increases, so you get better weapons and...
Yeah. I think we could probably literally be here all night talking about this. And this is even as we're just learning about the mechs, right? Which is, I think is kind of might be my downfall, is getting into this realm. And
this is a rabbit hole. Like, there's so much information out there that aren't even included in these books, that as soon as we decide to look up the jump capabilities of, the Phoenix Hawk, it jumps. Okay, well, how far can it jump? Well, now you're looking at 4 different sites with 5 different pieces of information, and you're just dive deeper and deeper and deeper, and you find more information, more associated information, then you sidestep, and you're like, oh, cool, well, it's got, this specific pilot from this faction decided to customize their mech, and they've got this really funky, neat whatever.
Yeah.
It's
mind-blowing, right? Like, this is not like this just came out yesterday. This has been around. This book was written in 1986. It's almost 40 years old. And so it's kind of cool to be able to wrap my head around this and look at all the different sides of things. Once again, we have a wonderfully painted lance to give away to one of our lucky subscribers.
Painted in the Draconis Combine Ryokan Roku scheme.
It includes a Battlemaster, a Catapult, a Dragon, and a Shadowhawk. We want to give a very special thanks to Army Painter Studios, who painted this amazing lance for us to give away as a random prize to our subscribers.
It's going to go to any new or current subscriber to the channel that likes and comments to any current video or upcoming video that has this promo in it. And when we hit 250 subscribers, we will do the draw.
Make sure you like and comment, because one or the other won't get you in for an entry. You have to like and comment on a video and you'll get entered.
Tell your friends, tell your enemies, tell your family. We need to hit 250 subscribers.
Thank you again for being such an amazing audience, and we look forward to reaching our next major milestone. Now, before we leave though, we do have to talk about the name, because there are the anomalies, but most of them are pretty intuitive or pretty apt to the category, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Like we were talking about the wasps earlier. Well, they fit into the light category, which fits. Wasps are small creatures. Mm-hmm. So they are a small mech. So is the locust or the stinger. There's a Jenner, that's one of the oddballs you're talking about. It is also a light mech.
Yeah, I don't know what that gender association is, but there's that rabbit hole, right? We could be like, oh, okay, well, where do the names, all these oddball names come from? I'm thinking it's probably a specific named after someone, but that's okay. Those make sense, even though I'm wasps, don't they fly? Yeah, they jump, but anyways.
Yeah.
Then we go up to the mediums, which, okay, we're looking at the bugs or the birds or the animals, and they're getting bigger. They're not jumping from a mouse to a elephant, but going from the locusts and stuff up to a phoenix hawk or a shadow hawk, a wolverine, or it's a bigger animal, and they fit in the neck size up, or the clint. I'm thinking maybe that's a Clint gun or something, thinking, is there another type of gun that might be comparative to light? I don't know. That's one of the oddballs.
Right. Yeah, because if you're looking at the animals, you go from a locust and a wasp up to hawks and wolverine. They are, as a visual reference, they are bigger. And then you got the heavies, your Warhammer. That visual, I think Thor.
I was literally thinking the same thing.
With Mjolnir, it's huge. It's just one of those, you don't want to be on the receiving end of it.
But then it's also not as it gives me that sense of power, but it's not like Thor or Odin.
Yeah.
Right? I can feel the power. It's definitely not you're getting up there.
Yeah. Orion. You think about, and I don't know the exact lore, I just know it's a constellation, and he was a Greek, important for something.
Hey, where's my husband when we need him?
Yeah.
He would go take us down there a hole. Anyways,
Yeah.
and the Marauder, which we've talked about, like we've mentioned off and on. But then there's this name, and I said to Laura, I was like, really? Grasshopper.
This is the oddball in the heavy category.
Well, and this one really does, like, Jenner and Clint, there's probably some kind of a story. But Grasshopper? How the heck does a Grasshopper and Locust are comparative?
So why is it two categories away from each other?
Yeah.
But, I mean, and so it's a good laugh. Yeah, I run a Grasshopper. Oh, it's a little small. Oh, no, it's not, because I'm pretty sure the Grasshopper is a 60 or 70 ton mech.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's...
But
we'll look into that.
I'm sure somebody in the comments will correct us if I'm actually wrong.
Yeah. But then we go up to the assaults. Like, I love these names. I have not heard of an assault. Well, no, I don't think I've really heard of an assault name that I'm really like, meh. But, like, we have the Atlas. So thinking Greek gods, the Atlas holds up the world, right? Awesome. Well, it's just awesome. Like, it doesn't make me think Greek god or anything, but it's like, yeah, it's not good. It's awesome, right? So bigger and better. A victor, well, like, winning, victory.
Yeah.
Or Zeus. Like,
Or
really,
Zeus.
Can you get any bigger than Zeus?
Nope.
Like, really, like, we're talking about these things. So they fit. And it's kind of nice to be able to say, okay, yeah, like, I remember the Marauder fits kind of like in the Heavies, right? Like, you can make those associations, which is kind of cool.
Right, and even like as we're reading the book, even if there isn't a description for whatever mech happens to get introduced next, but you hear the name and you're like, whoa, like that's gonna have some power behind it. Or it's like, oh yeah, that one's gonna die in the next chapter or two.
Yeah. Or like, oh, what are they gonna do with that thing? But then again, like, they all have their place, right? Like the wasps, these tiny little buggers, like wasps or locusts, right? Like one or two of them. Okay, getting stung by a wasp. Okay, maybe not the nicest thing, but it like, they're pesty, not a big
pests. Deal. No, that's exactly, they're pests. Or I think of in the book, the way they're coming across as they're scouts. Mm-hmm. They're fast and they're annoying. But they're like, yeah, they scout. They're in and out fast and quick and reconnaissance.
They're the ones that you're going to use to distract the Grasshopper, the awesome, right? Okay, well, maybe I'm not throwing some of these up that high, but they're going to get in there. But you have an awesome sitting out in the middle of this field and 100 locusts come at you.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like it's, or even, okay, so locusts, I'm pretty sure they're 20 tons. Again, you'll probably correct me. So say it's 20 tons, you need 5 of those to make 100, like to make a big guy. And so even 5 locusts, right? Like that could still be a pain in the tush.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, yeah, not as bad as like 100, but still, right? Like they have their ways, or the, like you said, coming in and distracting them, right? You're trying to bring your other big gun up.
Yeah, you got your couple wasps or locusts that, walk out into the middle of the street going, hey, over here, pew, pew, pew. Yes, girl, pew, pew, pew. And, the Atlas turns and goes bang, and then the Marauder comes up behind him and shoots him in the back, which has less armor, typically, than the front.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So now you're taking, some pretty heavy fire, and you don't see them.
Right.
So they're the good little, distraction. Look at my left hand while my right hand smacks you.
That was your right, that was your left.
But they can't see me, so it doesn't matter.
Oh God. But yeah, like they have their categories, right? Like the compact car, it's going in at the grocery store. The Hummer, you're trying to take that big ass thing down. So they have their place, and it's kind of cool to be able to make those connections. But I'm like, okay, this rabbit hole is just gonna, I'm going to Wonderland, man, because I'm just like, oh, and the funniest thing is, and I don't know if you know this, Laura, I dated a guy in university who used to have these like little freaking weird ass figurines all around, or like sheets with these like robot thingies on them with dots, and I'm like, what is that? That looks like the stupidest thing in the world. And well, right?
And now we're 2 seasons in.
Yeah.
And planning on playing a third.
We are taking out our extra time, like
reading the books.
And I'm like, oh man. Thanks. No, I love it, and I'm loving this supplemental so far, and I can't wait to do our next one, which I think we're talking about time or distance.
Yeah. Our next supplemental will be space jumps and how far they can travel from planet to planet, how many pit stops they need to make.
Right. Well, and I said this was gonna come back and shoot me in the mouth, but going into the research, I'm like, man. So join us on our next supplemental. Sorry about this one being so late, guys. It's been kind of insane, sick kids and
life happens.
So we're gonna get back on tack and en route, and we'll get this out as soon as we can and try and get back on track for our next.
We'll do our next chapter review next, and then we'll do another supplemental after that.
Yeah.
Maybe alternate. There's the possibility of alternating between the chapter reviews and the supplementals, depending on the rabbit hole of information the books give us.
Yeah, and make sure to check out the description for any links. We're going to try and put in as much as we can in there, that like where we got our information from.
If you want to jump down the rabbit hole with us, we will have links to the rabbit holes.
Yeah, come out and check our Facebook page. We haven't done much on there. It's kind of we're still trying to figure this all out, right? Like it's yeah.
Yeah, we'll have, I think, maybe some pictures of the graphics we've used in the video itself. You know, our Danny DeVitos and our Peter Dinklages and...
I mean, we're gonna have to do that with all the mechs, but anyways, check stuff out. Check out the boys on their Calgary Battletech League podcast as well. They do Battletech, which they talk about a bunch of different Battletech related things. And they even did one on games people play, but also they have one coming out talking about the MRC and the Kickstarter that Calgary actually just held for Catalyst Games.
Yeah, I think the Kickstarter Battletech is out already, and the MRC, the more recent MRC Battletech, will be out before this one gets posted.
Yeah, I think so.
And I think there will be a link to the first MRC Battletech they did, because this is the second or possibly third one they've done talking with the gentleman.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd have to look it up. I don't exactly know how to describe the MRC except for the fact that it's mostly online Battletech, but the community so far is North American, with one guy down in Australia,
which is cool. and I'm trying to figure stuff out, and I don't try and add a bunch of extra things onto my plate right now, but someone might have convinced me where my husband couldn't, that I might need to sign up now. Well, and it was kind of the boys, because I was listening to them the other night when Laura was over here, and they were talking about how, like, doing it now compared to doing it, it's like getting in on anything. The people who bought in at Apple first are the ones reaping it now, right? So get in there and start learning about it, even if I'm not really worried about points or anything like that. I don't have the brain power to add that on to anything else. So it's just to be able to learn it and learn Mega Mech is the online game.
That's the online program.
Online program. And you can do it in person. Like if you're somewhere else and you have a bunch of people that are Battletech, like...
Well, I'm pretty sure one of the co-hosts to Battletech and Uncivil Discourse is planning on running an MRC compliant in-person match tournament in May.
Oh, yes, May 7th.
May 7th. So we'll have a link to the Facebook page event for that one in the comments and descriptions.
Mm-hmm. And League, where that's where we're all connected with the boys is playing in League, and come check out our Calgary Battletech Facebook group. And they now have an Instagram page, and just come check it out. And if you're interested in learning, like we have, so it's a blast. I love it. And Laura and I are trying to just get some more, help build that community and just bring more people in. So come check it out. If you have questions, reach out. We're on Discord as well. And yeah.
Like, subscribe, comment, ask questions.
Bell.
Yeah,
hit that bell.
Hit that bell.
Hit that bell. And yeah, ask questions. Give us feedback. Now, please don't like jump down our throats or like I'm way newer at a lot of like not way new, but like you have more understanding of the universe than I do, right?
Yeah.
Like we're both delving into the books together, but you have more of that knowledge, and so this is like it's really kind of cool, and it's nice to be able to talk to a woman because like even one of the even one of the hosts on the CBL podcast even said listening to our point, like to the women's point of view, is kind of interesting. And so yeah, let us know. And if you have other questions, like we're not always going to be talking about Battletech, and we always want suggestions. But yeah, let us know what you think, and we'll talk to you all later, I guess.
Yeah. Till next time.
Toodaloo.
Ciao.